beginning of this week's Parsha, the beginning of chapter 23, verse 1 tells us, Vayu Chayei Sara me'ah shana ve'esrim shana ve'sheva shanim shnei Chayei Sara. Sarah's life was 100 years, it was 20 years, and it was 7 years. Those were the years of Sarah's life. Now those last few words, Shnei Chayei Sara, those are the years of Sarah's life, seem a little bit redundant if we're translating the word Shnei as years, as most people do. But the Ketav HaKabbalah writes that Shnei means also two, or both. Shnei Chayei Sara means that she was 127 years in both her lives. What both lives? So we actually always live a little bit in two different worlds. We've got, let's say, a religious life, and we have a secular life. We have a life of the world to come, and the eternal reward there. And we have our 70, 80 years on this planet, the terrestrial existence here. And most of us try to balance between the two. And the more successful we are in balancing those two things, the more seamless of a transition it's going to be into that eternal reward. And that's what it means, both of her lives, both of Sarah's lives. She was such a righteous person that both of her lives were 127 years. She lived both her lives fully. Both her spiritual life and her physical life were complete and full. Rav Hirsch writes similarly about Avraham Avinu, her husband, in the very next chapter. The very first verse of the next chapter, chapter 24, verse 1, says, V'Avraham zaken ba bayamim, that Avraham was old and he had gone through yamim, through days. What does it mean here? He went through days? So Rav Hirsch says, he was not overcome by his days. Rather, he strode through them. Each one was a milestone for him on his way to eternity. All of his days were just exactly what they should have been. He lived each day properly in a way that seamlessly led him through into his next life, into the world to come. We all have that opportunity in all the things we do in our lives. And sometimes we feel bogged down by the physicality, by the gashmiut, by the things we have to do, by the work, by the stress and everything else. What we need to keep in mind is all of that is part of our seamless transition, God willing, into our eternal reward after 120 years. Thank you for listening and have a Shabbat Shalom.